Okay, welcome back everyone. So I know we just started the Mega Greninja Learning Lab lessons, but they did also mention one that's in the standard that I've not done yet. Figured might be good to show you all. So if you go to standard, go all the way down. So here is where they're putting just kind of like specialized lessons. So we have like all of the normal stuff up here. Then they have the one for Badoo, the one for rotation. But the one we're doing today is damage versus damage counters, because there's a lot of cards now that, say place damage counters, do this damage, and cards that prevent doing damage counters. So let's go through the lesson so that way you'll know how to use the Mega Greninja and other cards to their fullest. Does the difference between damage and damage counters give you a headache worse than Psyduck's? Don't sweat it. With a little practice, you'll definitely be able to tell them apart when it counts. We're starting this lesson in the middle of a game. Go ahead and attack me. Okay, so we'll do the Super Psy Bolt with Kadabra. Well, I don't have much to defend myself with. Let's hope I flip heads on my Bronzor's Iron Defense attack. Perfect, just try to do damage now. Okay, Super Psy Bolt, you can see it's even reduced the number to 0 over there. You see what happened? Because of Bronzor's Iron Defense, I didn't take any damage from your attack. In Iron Defense, flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks. Iron Defense again. Whether your attack does 30 or 300 damage, none of it will get through Bronzor's Iron Defense. So how do you knock out Bronzor? We need something different. This is where damage counters could help you. Yep, let's draw some cards. Okay, take a look at this attack. You might notice that Powerful Hand doesn't have an attack damage number. Instead, the attack has an effect that places damage counters. Try it out and see what happens. Powerful Hand, place 2 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon for each card in your hand. We have 3, so that's 6 damage counters. So what just happened? Placing damage counters is an effect that harms a Pokemon, like Poison or Burn. Bronzor's Iron Defense protects against damage done by attacks, but not the effects of attacks like Alakazam's damage counter placement. You can tell how much damage a Pokemon has taken by counting the damage counters on it. Each damage counter is worth 10 damage, so placing 6 damage counters on Bronzor means it takes 60 damage, enough for a knockout. Think of it like this. Some attacks do damage which is affected by weakness or resistance. Because placing damage counters is in effect, it bypasses weakness and resistance, and the damage cannot be altered. Pay close attention to cards that talk about damage versus damage counters. If a card says it prevents damage, it might still be affected by damage counters. Okay, so we get hit with the dig and a heads coin flip. Okay, powerful hand again. And you see that effect there? That is what we call a fizzle. Now that you know how damage counters work, let's try a tougher nut to crack. Dig protects the Pokemon from damage and effects of attacks. Placing damage counters is an effective attack, so it got blocked. So if you can't hit with damage or damage counters, what do? You can manipulate damage counters. Here's when things get stickier than a muck in a sewer. Once damage is done to a Pokemon, you can think of it as either damage or damage counters. Your Pokemon has taken 60 damage, but you can also say that your Pokemon has 6 damage counters on it. We're not even going to talk about attacking. Let's look at this ability instead. Brain lets you move damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of mine. So Brain, once during your turn, if this Pokemon has any darkness energy attached, you may move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay, so let's Brain from the Alakazam. This works because Dunsparce's Dig prevents damage and effects of attacks. Brain is an ability, not an attack, so it can still affect Dunsparce. You can see that by moving 3 damage counters off your Pokemon onto mine, you effectively damage my Pokemon for 30 while healing yours for that 30. You're just doing it by moving damage counters instead of attacking. Okay, second Brain. How odd. The game has a very specific order that it wants you to move these damage counters. To summarize, damage is done by attacks in increments of 10, while damage counters can be placed with either attacks or abilities in increments of 1 that equal 10 damage each. Think about tricky ways you can use damage counters to your advantage to hit your opponent even when they seem invulnerable. Hopefully you can count on this lesson to achieve victory. Wah wah. Okay, and that's the lesson of damage versus damage counters. Obviously, there's a whole lot more interactions that were not demonstrated in the lesson, but hopefully this helps give some clarification on the difference. All right, see you guys next time.